realize someone was trying to become your dead child? My daughter Chloe started seeing Dr. Eleanor Hayes when she was 16 after my brother did unspeakable things to her for years. Eleanor was the only therapist who could reach Chloe through all the PTSD episodes and helped her testify to put him in prison. When Chloe jumped from a bridge on the anniversary of when the abuse started, she left a note saying, "Tell Dr. Hayes the memories won." At the funeral, Eleanor arrived late and collapsed at the casket whispering, "You were so brave, so close to healing." 2 weeks after we buried Chloe, I got a therapy bill in the mail for her weekly session, which I figured was just a clerical error. But then Eleanor called and invited me to her office to collect Chloe's things. And when I walked in, I found fresh flowers on Chloe's chair, with her stuffed rabbit arranged exactly how she always held it. Eleanor hugged me and explained she'd been lighting candles every week on the dates connected to Chloe's trauma because it helped her process the loss. She offered to share some recorded sessions to help me understand what Chloe went through, and I said yes immediately because I was desperate to hear my daughter's voice again. When she gave me a progress report dated after Chloe's death saying she was continuing to make breakthroughs, I just figured Eleanor was having trouble letting go. My husband Richard thought it was getting strange, but I defended her because this woman had spent 8 years walking through hell with Chloe, and she deserved to grieve in her own way. That's when things turned dark. The prison called saying Eleanor visited my brother claiming to be Chloe and had asked him to describe the abuse in detail so she could remember it properly. When I asked her about it, she said she was just trying to understand Chloe's pain better to help process the loss. She also started saying things like, "We were so scared during the abuse," instead of "Chloe was scared." And when I mentioned it seemed unhealthy, she said I wouldn't understand the therapeutic bond they'd shared. But Chloe's journals went missing from her apartment, and I found them in Eleanor's office with entire entries copied word for word into Eleanor's handwriting. She had memorized the complete court transcript and would randomly recite Chloe's testimony during our coffee meetings. When I finally worked up the courage to suggest Eleanor might need her own therapist, she turned cold and said, "You abandoned Chloe when the abuse was happening, and now you're abandoning her memory too." Soon after, the building manager at Chloe's apartment called because someone matching Eleanor's description had been using the spare key, and neighbors heard her talking to someone inside. I tried reaching out to Eleanor's supervisor, but she told me I was being cruel to someone who dedicated 8 years to saving my daughter. Everything exploded when I went to Eleanor's office after hours to demand she stop this obsession. The door was unlocked, and I could hear voices inside, but when I walked in, the room was empty except for Chloe's voice coming from a laptop. Eleanor had left a session playing where she was having a full conversation with the empty chair and switching between her voice and my daughter's so smoothly it made me sick. The desk drawers were open like she wanted me to find everything, including hundreds of recorded sessions all dated after Chloe died. The financial documents showed she'd legally changed her middle name to Chloe. The letter to the parole board broke me completely. Eleanor had forged Chloe's handwriting, begging them to release my brother early because she forgave him and wanted to heal as a family. I drove home shaking and found Eleanor in Chloe's childhood bedroom with dolls arranged on the bed, recreating the abuse scenes. She was so calm when she looked up at me like she'd been expecting me. "I had to come here to understand," she said, showing me she cut herself in the same place as Chloe used. The office wasn't enough anymore because her real trauma lives in these walls. When I screamed at her to get out, she stood up slowly and grabbed my shoulders. "I absorbed all her trauma when she died," she said in this voice that sounded halfway between hers and Chloe's. "Her pain lives in my cells now, and I'm the only one who truly knew what she needed to heal." I shoved her away and called 911, but she ran to her car and I knew exactly where she was going. The police found her at the same bridge where Chloe took her own life, standing on the railing in Chloe's favorite dress while reading therapy notes aloud to the air. She was having both sides of a conversation about how this final session would fix everything. When they tried to talk her down, she started speaking entirely in Chloe's voice, saying, "I'm ready to forgive everyone now." After they pulled her to safety, she handed them fabricated session notes claiming I had known about the abuse and allowed it to continue. As they put her in handcuffs, Eleanor sobbed, "If I become her, then she never really died, and this time I can save her before it happens again." The medical board revoked Eleanor's license after they discovered she'd been practicing trauma scenarios with other patients to better understand Chloe. Even with the restraining order, she sends letters to my house signed, "Your daughter's true mother." Police found her running grief counseling for parents who lost children to suicide, telling them she could channel their dead kids. Last month, a package arrived with a USB containing every therapy session, but Eleanor had edited her own voice answering as Chloe. Sometimes at Chloe's grave, I still hear Eleanor whispering about healing.